A bird sang this song to me. There was a message in its melody. Sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright.
Now, this is perfect. As a matter of fact, we all heard her sing this into reality. She said everything was going to be all right, and it's all right. So I want to thank those of you who stuck with us through that, whatever that was, when we first started with all the feedback. It seems like it's cleared up now. So thank you for sticking with us, because I promise you, you're going to be so glad that you stuck here with us, because this is going to be an absolutely fantastic podcast. So before we start, you all know that my media coach always tells me I have homework to do that I forget to do. So here we go. Okay. I want you to go to my website, champagneconnection.com. There are previous episodes there on my website if you want to look at those there. And then you can also find me in YouTube under my name, Stephanie Wilson-Coleman. Also on my website, champagneconnection.com. There's some merchandise too. There's some free items too that you can download to help you figure out what the next steps you need to take would be in order for you to get started on this journey. We all are here to do something specific. And I always say the reason we have so many problems out in the world is because there's some of y'all not doing your part by living your dreams, by doing the things that you were actually sent here to do. So it's time to just get up out of that chair and get busy. So joining me today is Whitney Alexandra, and I'm going to read to you just a little bit of her bio because it's fantastic. She's a performance coach, and I know everybody can benefit from one of those, because just while we were going through this little thing, she told me something that I needed to know and do too. So she's a coach for top entrepreneur women who want to create limitless wealth and a fabulous life beyond their wildest dreams. I know we all want to do that. She has spent the past 20 years helping powerful business owners unlock their peak potential. So I think that's fantastic. So you all know, if you are on this podcast, you've got pencil and paper already. If not, get busy getting some, because we're going to learn a little bit today. So thank you, Whitney, for agreeing to be on my show. I really appreciate it. And tell us something about you that we don't know and how you decided to do this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I agree with you. There's some divine force out there that is just going to make this the most magical conversation. And, I think like any other path in life, it's very easy to look back and see how all of the dots connected and see how the relationships happened. And that step led to this exciting thing. And it's not so easy to see it looking forward, right? And so I know that certainly was the case for me when I started working for an accounting firm. I answered the phones and they liked me so much. They said, okay, come work in the back. And, I took my mom's advice as someone who was new and very junior starting, and I just started bossing everyone around. And that's how, I became a performance coach. I just started, talking to leaders, helping them grow their business, really zeroing in on their branding and that big piece of accountability that shows up with every coach. And so that's how I got my start.
Cool. It sounds so easy, right? For you to step into that. So what approach did you take initially when you started to approach clients and coaching clients? Because, a lot of people are really afraid to take that first step. And that is the important one, because if you don't take the first step, you never get started.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So I had a 10-year corporate career. And at the end of the 10 years, and now at this time, I thought to myself, this is my dream job. this is my dream job. I've made it. I've hustled. I've worked so hard to get where I wanted to go. And in that moment, they chopped up the company, sold it for parts. And I thought, what am I going to do now? And I kind of realized in that time that I didn't want anyone else to be responsible for my life, making decisions on my behalf. I wanted to know that, every ounce of effort and that I went into, it could go towards building something. And so to answer your question, what happened for me was I didn't have a job and I thought, okay, I've got to make this work. I'm an entrepreneur. I got to hustle. Let me try a few different things. Let me reach out to the people I know. And, when you think about it, it's really just basic stuff. It's connecting with people, using your zone of genius. And, I think in those moments, you realize you don't have the luxury of time and you don't have the luxury of comfort. And so it really is just accelerating through those early stages of business and trying to get those contracts signed or trying to get your foot in the door somewhere, making big things happen.
Now, you mentioned a term I hear often, zone of genius, and a lot of people talk about that, but that's scary to some people because they look at where they are and they say, if I had a zone of genius, I wouldn't be here. So how do you define a zone of genius, and how would others begin to identify who is actually in their zone of genius?
Yeah, I think so many of us are operating in what this is my favorite book, The Big Leap, where that term, the zone of genius, comes from. And so he talks about a lot of us operating from a place of zone of excellence. And so most of you are probably in your zone of excellence, where you're doing a job you're doing an excellent job at something. But I think about a zone of genius as that unique thing that only you can do. It's the unique mix of your skills and your background and your perspective, and some of those, God-given talents and gifts that all create, this new role. And I think a lot of us have a zone of genius that can be used across different industries or in different roles. So it's not to say you're not already in it. I think so often your zone of genius is something that you're already doing, and it seems easy, too easy, that we sort of discount it sometimes.
Oh, that is so true. I have a friend, for example, who you have a finance problem, she just solves it, but she doesn't think that that's a big deal. It's like, oh yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we discount it because it comes easy to us. So how did you find your first client, and walk us through a success story of how you worked with a client and some of their ups and downs, so that people can begin to understand that everyone has ups and downs and that they're actually critical to your success?
So my very first client, he was also a part of this, sort of business sale, right? He was part of that, but the difference was he had a consulting business to go back to. And so I pitched him. I looked at what he was doing. I thought, you have so much more opportunity with your business and how you want to grow. And so he was my very first client. And I just sort of pitched it knowing what I thought the opportunity was in his space. And then he hired me and we worked together pretty well for a couple of years. So that was my very first client on my own. And I think success stories, they're so varied. I have, like, for me, I think a success story is when a business owner or any executive or any business professional can come home and spend the evening with their children, or go to the hockey game if they choose, right? A success story can also be like making memories with the family and having a vacation that typically would be off the table. It could also be, you're not working quite so hard or quite so much. Or it could be like, I have a few clients, it's $100,000 a month They're taking, the money that they used to make in a year becomes their new monthly income. And that's also a success. So it really varies based on the person. How are we defining success? And what is your wildest dream? Not mine, right? You get to decide.
So how does mindset play in it? Because we hear a lot about mindset. So how does mindset play in it?
I think mindset, it gets such a bad rap sometimes. I think people feel like we can blame everything on mindset, and that is part of it. But I think so much of mindset is actually just being able to see what's possible, seeing other people's successes, believing that, well, if it's true for them, it could be true for me too.
Mhm.
Right? And so it can be in a moment, some of those hurdles that we want to say our mindset are really just awareness, creating the awareness that there are other people doing the things that you want to do and having wild success doing it.
So as people come to you, so are their goals are very different, I imagine.
Yeah.
So just how different can they be? I want everyone listening to us tonight know that nothing is too out of the box. Nothing's too big, too little.
Mhm.
It's just whatever it is you want to do. So give us some examples so that they won't be afraid to knock on your door.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
think, oh my God, she's going to think this is strange.
No, they range so much. So even if we look at the financial goals, I have some clients who say, I've been in business for 9 or 10 years. I've never made more than 16, maybe $20,000 a month. And if I did that one time, I couldn't do it on repeat, right? And so often they'll say, okay, I'm sort of stuck at this 6-figure level. And I have a goal of having $1 million business. Is that even possible for me? Right. So it can vary from something that is sort of on that end of the spectrum all the way up to, I want $1 million business or I want $100,000 months. For some people, they want it all, right? And I encourage people to think about, what is your wildest dream? What is it that you desire? And so some will say, I want to work part-time and I want $1 million business. Okay. Right. I truly believe that anything is possible. Sometimes it just comes down to having the right business strategy, the right brand or messaging for those clients or whoever it is you're working with. And you also need to believe it's possible, right? If you don't think that it's going to be possible, you will never achieve it. I promise you that. This is not one of those like prove me wrong scenarios. This is, you will continue based on your mindset to prove yourself right. And so typically I spend a lot of time with clients thinking both about what is actually physically possible and what's that wild dream. And let's put a business strategy to the wild dream so that you start to believe that it is possible and you can see sort of the roadmap to getting there.
Okay, so what is one of your wildly successful stories? People love those.
I mean, I have so many of them. I feel like
I love that about you. See, she has so many of those. I love that about you.
I know. I love that. Like, I had a client yesterday who sold a contract for $490,000. Just like that. Right. And earlier in the year, she sort of came to me with what she thought was an achievable goal for the year. And I think it was maybe, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that. And so it really is pulling off the blinders of what you think is possible and creating a goal that is so wild, right? Like when people work with me, I know SMART goals are still a thing, but when they work with me, we're not doing that. It's not what we think is achievable. It's like, let's pick something totally outside of the box and throw everything at it. And so often what I love about that process is that we get to a place where you don't have the same sort of emotional attachment when the goal is really wild, right? So
Okay.
often I ask people to 10x their goal or 5x their goal.
Okay.
And so it's so far outside of the comfort zone that you actually have to do business or make decisions in a completely different way. So we start firing up, this is that performance side of it. We start firing up that creative engine. We start thinking about what kind of mindset or what sort of product would I have to sell in
Okay.
order to make this happen, right? And
Right.
we get creative. But because the goal is so big, we aren't attached to it in the same way because it never seems possible, right? So we
Yes.
take action in a different way. The roadmap looks different.
That's true. I think even when I started the podcast, it's like, oh, we're not going to be able to do that. But you do start doing and working toward it. And before you know it, it's there because you didn't think you were going to do it. So you didn't have any time to actually send enough negative energy to it. So that it wouldn't come. So what has been one thing that may have been difficult for you to help a client over?
Ooh, often I find that the hardest one is procrastination, right? And someone in sort of that freeze state. And often what I find is when we have already solved the problem, but someone has not gone to implement yet, it is because we've solved the problem, right? We've solved that problem. And so once you go to implement, you can't be the person that's holding on to it anymore. You can't say, well, it never worked. We can't hold on to the old story, the old identity, all of those things that are keeping someone safe, right? We have to set those aside in order to achieve that next goal. And so often, I'm working with someone and that is where we can really get stuck sometimes is they know exactly what to do and they're not doing it. And, and I say like, I'm tough. I know I look sweet. I am tough. But it's like, let's find out your unique formula for performance. Because for some people, it's chipping away at things. For others, it's finding, another creative way of going about it. But I often share with people, it's not the fear of failure that keeps you from taking those strides. It's actually the fear of success, right? Of being visible, being seen, just opportunities just like this. This is what people are most afraid of.
It reminds me of something like one of my mentors told me the other day. Says, you don't do a lot of live stuff on LinkedIn. Why not? And I says, oh, because I'm hiking and I don't think I'm cute enough.
Ah,
She said, next time you hike, you need to do something. So guess what? I did it. I wasn't cute enough, but didn't anybody care?
You are absolutely cute enough. I'm sure that you can do a cute hike. I'm positive. But the other part of it too, which I think, sometimes we get so stuck thinking that being a business owner, or an entrepreneur, an executive, or a mom, or whatever needs to look a certain way, right? I need to show up looking like this or doing this. And I think this all right now is this giant permission slip just to write your own story, show up as you want to, show up in a really authentic way. Right. And so often people will see me posting running videos through the park or something like that. They'll see no makeup, sort of zipped up in running gear. And they get that. They also get this fabulous version. Right. And how sad would it be if I only allowed people to see one side of me when it's the other side that might inspire them to also show up?
So for those of you listening and you tell your friends, it's all right to show up just the way you are, but show up and get it done, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So when I know that we do have a lot of self-limiting beliefs, and sometimes we're not even aware of those beliefs, and that goes just for everybody. We just think that there's some things we can't do. We know we can do these wonderful things, but there's some things over there that we don't think we can do. How do you help people past that? And how may those thoughts be hindering people's progress?
It's so interesting you brought that up. So 95% of how you live your life and the decisions you make and the thoughts that you think are happening in that subconscious part of your brain. Think of it like running on autopilot, right? We've all been in that place where we're driving home or we're driving somewhere and we think, gee, how did I get here? Right? Because we're just so used to operating a certain way. And so often what I'm looking at when I'm working with a client, it's really goal specific, right? If we're working on something specific, what are the limiting beliefs that are preventing them from showing up and doing that work or showing up and really embracing that goal? And so often we're going kind of one by one through them. I love to use a few different techniques. One of them I love to use is subconscious reprogramming. So I love to sort of help them rewire their mind from the perspective of, what is it that you're currently thinking and believing, and how do we release that and replace the script with something that's so much better? So I think of it often as replacing that inner critic with an inner champion. So powerful phrases, just like an affirmation.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your clients do affirmations?
I think affirmations are really helpful. So I love them. I don't give them a specific affirmation or affirmation homework. Usually we're doing custom recordings that they can listen to. And that has a really interesting benefit because you are not only hearing your own name, but you're visualizing all of those things that we're talking about in that script for you as well. So you're seeing it, you're believing it, and you're hearing it on repeat.
Oh, that's interesting. And then I just thought I did that once. I can't remember who recommended it. I think it was, I don't know. I don't know if it was Abraham Hicks, but it was, and it is actually very interesting to do. Yeah. And you sort of be surprised what you can accomplish. We don't even think about that though. And then you just go to the next thing and you forget what worked for you before. And then we start beating ourselves over again, trying to get the new thing instead of doing what works.
That's exactly it. Like when we figure out what works for us and that formula, your personal success formula, you should do more of it. Right. And so often, I have a mastermind that I run. And so we were talking about this. What are all those things that help you tap into that magic? Right. So when you do these things, then you start to have these ideas or you start to become a magnet for money. And so it's really easy for people to list out, okay, I know when I move my body and I know when I journal and I know when I get good sleep and I have a bath or something like that to relax. Okay, how many times have you been doing that this month? I haven't, right? It's pretty easy to identify the problem. And again, it always comes back to, your brain is trying to keep you safe and it's keeping you safe and stuck. Being stuck or feeling stuck is that way that it keeps you safe and keeps you in a very comfortable, even if it's not, keeps you in that comfortable place.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to Albert Einstein, who would put the ball in his hands so that he could stay in the theta wave so that he could actually figure out how to do what he was doing. And Jose Silva, who actually had a meditation process to keep you in that state too. They didn't forget. I don't know why we forget, because I do forget too. It's like, oh my God, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. So when people are struggling to find motivation or direction in their personal lives or professional lives, and they've tried everything that they've seen online, what piece of advice could you give them that will help them at least get started?
I always think if we're so stuck in the day-to-day, right? We need a pattern interruption, right? So if you think about being in a classroom full of kids and then you get a big, or a whistle goes or something like that, that is an instant pattern interruption, right? Everybody turns and looks. And so I think so often as adults, we don't use those pattern interruptions enough. Vacation is a great pattern interrupter. Changing your routine is a great pattern interruption. So often I think when someone isn't feeling motivated, it's because the goal isn't something exciting enough. And so what we need to do, I really love for people to check in and have an honest conversation with themselves. Is this what I really desire? Or is this what I think is the right thing? Right. And so there are little, sort of trigger words that you can, keep your ears thinking about. So the shoulds, I think I should do this. Some of those are great phrases where we think obligation or logic. And instead, what we're saying is, how do you follow the joy? How do you follow your heart? How do you follow the divine inspiration? How do you follow those little creative, curiosities and nudges that get us to that next place? So often, where we're meant to be is not the next logical step, it's something different. And so, I think it's having the curiosity to follow, where that joy comes from and not be trying to make it mean anything else, right? Or not trying to figure it out.
Right. We're not trying to make it make sense. We're just
Mhm.
enjoying it and allowing it to fill us up with that joy so that we can relax a little bit. And then once we relax, the answers sort of kind of come to you. Gosh, see, this is wonderful. I'm learning so much. So you mentioned a little bit about mindfulness and self-awareness in your practice. So is it customized for each individual, or how do you do it? Oh, wow. For each
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah, every individual, because I'll tell you, so the technique that I learned is called rapid transformational therapy. And what's interesting about it is that it's all customized to exactly what Stephanie wants, because what Stephanie wants is different from what Whitney wants.
Mhm.
And what Whitney wants is going to be different from what Taylor or Dan or whoever wants. And so I think that's really the power of having some of those custom scripts is that, you and I can both hear our names and get excited about our individual goals. And then I do have some that I just, are sort of random ones. Okay, everyone wants to be a millionaire. Here you go. Listen to the script, feel good about it, and, find more of these opportunities. Feel like a money magnet. Those are all really powerful phrases that most people would want to hear. And so it's always kind of a mix of that, but there's nothing like custom.
So having it in your own voice, talking to you about what you want to really achieve is the way to go.
Your own name, your own goal,
Right.
because you've had other scenarios in life where people say, "Well, don't you want this?" No, or I already have it.
Yes.
Right? And so I always talk to people about the importance of it being a reflection of what they desire, right? And that is, I think, such a competitive advantage. We see professional athletes all the time visualizing. They're winning the Olympics. They're standing on the podium with a gold medal, right? They're shooting the last, the game-winning shot in the NBA finals. Those are two different programs that we're on, right? And so I think that importance of, sort of installing that winning script is so powerful.
You mentioned that, and I just remember seeing a clip on Facebook of a young man who was just drafted out of college into pro leagues, and he was on the field with another player, and he actually says, "Okay, throw me the ball. I'm making the touchdown here, and when I make the touchdown, I'm going to throw it to that kid that's sitting right up there." And no one was there, sitting right up there in the bleachers, and then we're going to run off like this. And you're right. And they talk about how often they just visualize them doing well. And I said, "Gosh, we don't do it as much as they do."
We don't. And I think that is one of the most powerful tools that anyone can take. Anyone listening or watching today can take away. It's like, how can you bring more of that dream life or dream goal? What parts can you bring in today? Right? I know I'm currently single, and one of my girlfriends, when we were away traveling, I said, "This is going to sound funny, but do you think you could just hold me in the ocean for a minute?" Right? And sort of like hold me out on her arms, like I would envision being with my future partner. So it can work for any goal that you have, right? It could be practicing the final shot. It could be, calling in that romantic partner. It could be, practicing what it's going to feel like having your first $10,000 month, or selling $100,000 month, or $100,000 contract. Could really be anything, but we've got to visualize it. And what's cool about visualizing it is that your identity will shift as part of that, right? How you imagine yourself showing up. What are you wearing? What are you doing? How are you speaking? How do you show up as a $1 million business owner? Because it's probably different than how you're going to show up as a business owner that is struggling or just starting out. And so all of those things are going to help attract what it is that you desire so much faster.
So the flip side of that, though, means that for those of you who are listening, is that if we're not achieving our goals now, we're actually attracting that too. Mm-hmm. We're in a space where we can't achieve our goals because we don't believe it, and we're probably having conversations about what we coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't, right? So we need to stop those conversations and start seeing ourselves doing what it is we want to do and hearing ourselves do that. Mm-hmm. As I said before, I remember having a recording I would listen to every morning as I got ready to go to work and put on makeup, and I'd listen to it. It was short. It was about 5 minutes. And now that I think back, everything on that recording I experienced.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here now saying, "Oh God, I got to get another recording." Yeah. That's what I'm going to do right after this show, right?
Yeah. But you're exactly right. It's, if you're not achieving it, there's something that you're embracing in the not achieving. Right?
You're getting something out of it, something that actually is satisfying you, whether it's being able to criticize other people or whatever it is. And so with Whitney's help, we need to switch that around and make it about you and your success. Because, as I said earlier, we wouldn't have all of this turmoil that we see around us if everyone was out here manifesting their goals and dreams, because that's what we came here for. We didn't just come here to be here and take up space. We came here for that. So sometimes people think that ambitious goals are unrealistic. So how do you handle that? Those are usually going to be your stubborn people. I'm sorry, stubborn people. We love you too.
I think I mostly just ignore it.
Okay. We still love you though, okay? Right.
No, I'll be serious for a moment. So I think, part of it is we get to the root and the cause and the reason. Why isn't it possible? Is it possible for other people to do it? Usually that's where the story starts to break down, right? Like, I've been in business for X years, or I've always done this and that's never happened, or I don't believe it's possible for me, or bad things happen to people that have money, right? Rich people are mean. Who knows? Like everyone's got their own individual story that is preventing them from being successful, calling in the wealth or the success that they really desire. And so it is in unpacking that we start to see, why isn't it achievable? And so often I think you just need one example where we can see it's achievable. If they can do that, then why can't you? Um, Sometimes too, if we don't know someone who's done it, we'll just work through a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
Is it possible for someone to do this? So not you, Stephanie, maybe you might think it's not possible, but what about somebody else? Could they do that? Yeah, maybe they could. Here's how they might do it. And so sometimes just removing ourselves and those emotions attached from the problem, we can solve it for somebody else, right? I think we've all had those experiences where we're like, the answer is right there. Why aren't you listening to me?
Right. The answer's right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes though, when we, through television and all of that, when we think about rich people being mean, we only know 4 or 5 and we don't know them, because what we're learning about them is what we hear on the press and the news, and we don't really know what happened. We don't have all of the facts, and they're too busy envisioning their next success to try to clean up that. And we need to understand that we are here for us to do our part. So Whitney is giving you permission now that you can do and have anything you really want to do. So do you have any personal rituals that you used in your success that you share with others?
Oh yeah, I have so many. I mean, that should not surprise anyone.
Right.
But even like we just described, I also, sometimes forget about them. I'm like, okay, I have my own recording, which is a little weird because it's in my voice, right? And so I have my own recording that I have my own 90-day performance plan like I do for clients. I also do that for myself. I think I love having big visuals around me. So if I've got a big goal, I love to see, how am I making progress? How am I tracking? So my office, this side looks nice, the other side doesn't look so nice. But it's like finding those exciting little markers and elements that you can have around you that just continue to propel you forward. I also love journaling. I find I get a ton of divine downloads that come from journaling every morning or going for a walk in nature. So it really is, I think, finding the things that bring out that creativity or help you tap into, your own joy that's going to make a success. It's not this, you have to get up at 5:30. You have to do 10 things you're grateful for. Like everyone is going to have their own unique success formula.
Okay, I was wondering about that because they're pushing this 5 a.m. thing on everybody now.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest, like I think 5 a.m. is a good, what I love about 5 a.m. What I love is the world is quiet. So when you are waking up, you're journaling, you're doing movement, whatever it is, you have some thinking time first thing in the morning, right? I think where people make the mistake sometimes is thinking, okay, I get up at 5 a.m. and then I run wild for the whole day. And you're just exhausted by the end of it. That is not what the intention of those miracle mornings or a 5 a.m. sort of start is. I do love that pause and having sort of that time in the morning. But it's not for everyone. I think you need to find what works best for you and do that.
So you guys write that down. Find what works best for you. So, because some of us will use not wanting to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning as an excuse. And it's funny because I can't get up at 5 in the morning, but my time is 4. So I just get up and do some things, and then I go back to sleep. So, but it is incredibly quiet and peaceful around 4ish. It just is, and everything looks so beautiful outside out the window. And then when I'm finished doing what I'm going to do, then I lay back down, and then I get up for mastermind, and then I hit that hiking trail and see. And if I can do a video with no makeup on, nobody else needs to worry about being cute. Just get up and get it done.
Absolutely.
So do you suggest they use their phones to put their messages on? Or because some people want to make that part hard too. So how do you get the audio going so that you can remind yourself what it is you want to do? Because sometimes we do forget.
I think we do forget. I always love people to have it in a few different places. So audio on the phone is really great, right? If you're going to listen to something when you first wake up, you could also read powerful affirmations. That's going to help you too. So having it in a place where you can't just stop doing it one day, I think always helps. Creating a really exciting Pinterest board on your as a laptop screensaver or a phone screensaver. All of that is really great as well, because you sort of look and go, oh, right, I forgot I wanted to earn $1 million this year, or I forgot I was calling in this, new fabulous trip with the family. So often I think having that mix of visual cues and an auditory cue are kind of the perfect balance.
So how have your clients reacted to their success? Because sometimes that's an issue too. We want to be successful, but when we get it, it's like, oops.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. There are people who, in the book we were talking about earlier, The Big Leap, he talks about everyone having a sabotage, right? A saboteur in there. And so learning to understand how is it that you sabotage your success. And sometimes I find it happens where people want to sabotage before they hit that success. Or so an example might be like, I booked a TED Talk. I'm going to be on stage. It's going to go viral. And the night before, I think, gee, I don't feel that well. I think I've lost my voice. That is not a physical problem. That is a mental, mindset problem, right? And that could be someone's saboteur that is keeping them from that next level of success. So we see some of that. Often I see a lot of procrastination, right? And so, not doing the thing that would be the difference maker in someone's business. Other times we see them have wild success one month, and that is a little uncomfortable. And so we do a little bit of a slide back the next month, right? And so everyone, just like everyone's success formula is custom, you're also going to have a way that you try and sabotage. So when I'm working with someone, I'm always telling them, you're an expert in you. So you tell me, what are the ways you're going to try and get out of this? What are the ways you're going to try and sabotage our success? Right? And we already know the things we do. It's true. Right? And so I always tell people, tell me how you're going to get out of this one. And then that way I know, because they've hired me for a reason. They want to achieve this goal. And so it is, something I want for them. They want it too. And so what are the ways that we can, either remove that from happening, or have a really great workaround for when it does happen, or when I start to see a few symptoms of it happening.
Okay. It's kind of like when I tell leaders they need to have a plan for whatever you're doing. If it's like you think, but you got to have a plan if it was more successful, because you've got to know what to do. And when it's being successful, you can't wait to figure out what to do. Then you need to know And then when it's not successful, you need a plan. So that way you can gauge yourself and you know what to do without losing a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
So what motivates you to stay in this work?
Ooh, that is a great question. I often go back to like legacy building, not my own, but other clients, right? The impact and the ripple effect that my business has working with clients and what happens to their families, their communities, their businesses, their clients, all of that has such a tremendous ripple effect. So that absolutely keeps me going. I also love money, so that keeps me going, right? I want both. And I think this is where so often as entrepreneurs, and especially as women, we get a bad rap where it's like, I want everything to be heart-led and focused and purpose-driven. And it is. But I also deserve to make the money I desire and to have both, lead the life I want, have the hours I want, right? It's such a sabotage to think, that we shouldn't earn good money for doing good work. And I'm happy to see so many people breaking out of, that limiting belief where if I'm doing purpose-driven work or divinely led work, then I should charge a reasonable fee.
Yes, like I always say, I can accomplish a lot of things with the right pair of shoes.
Yeah. I love it.
Sorry. We've got one comment. I'm going to see if I can get to it without causing StreamYard issues. So, they just wanted to say thank you for everything that you have shared. I'm so happy about that. So that's great. So, how do people get in touch with you? So, remind us how we do that. Because there are a lot of people who want to reach their peak potential now.
I love it. I love it. And, I'm always happy to answer questions. The easiest, fastest way to get a hold of me, I'm always on Instagram. So you can find me Whitney.Alexandra on Instagram. And we've got a beautiful website. So there's lots of tools and other things on there as well.
And when you visit her website, and she says there's tools, so get started, because you'll be surprised how much those things will help you and help you define where you want to be. A lot of times we can't achieve what we think we want because we really can't even define what it is we want. And we have got to start being able to do that. And women, you are allowed to have both. You are allowed to have great family and a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Yes, please. And lots of shoes.
That's right. And lots of shoes. Okay. Shoes. So, oh gosh. I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight. I want to thank those of you who hung in with us with the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning, but we got those straightened out. See, this was an important conversation for everyone to hear. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, known as the Empowerment Doctor. And I know I forgot to mention on the second go round that check me out on ChampagneConnection.com. This video will be uploaded on ChampagneConnection.com very soon. And you'll also be able to see it at YouTube. There's some merchandise there, and there's also some free information for you that you can answer some questions and kind of have fun with it. You don't have to tell me the answers, and we're not requiring that, but so that you can decide where you need to go next. And Whitney would be more than happy to help you through your journey also. So with that, your website again, Whitney?
It's whitneyalexandra.co.
Okay, so you guys got that. That way you can get in touch with her and do some great work, because we all deserve everything that we want. And as I always say at close, may this day offer you just what you need in each unfolding moment. Be inspired. Until further notice, just celebrate everything. Okay, just everything. Just celebrate it. Do not go gently into that good night. I want you to find a hill worth dying for and take it. Be the person that you have been waiting for. Make today so awesome that yesterday gets jealous, and above all else, do it your way. Remember, I can do anything with the right pair of shoes. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor, and this has been an absolute pleasure. So with that, we're going to go to our commercial, and then we will end today's podcast. Thank you again. It was my pleasure.
Life's too short to drink cheap champagne, so I decided